Wars are usually told with noise, with explosions, with shouting, with urgency. But today we are not telling that kind of story. This is a slower history, a quieter one. This is the Vietnam War, told through ordinary days, routine, waiting, and silence. Not through battles, but through time. Before the war, Vietnam was not a battlefield. It was fields and rivers and villages that woke early in the morning. Farmers walked slowly into the fields. Water reflected the sky. Cooking fires burned quietly. Life followed patterns: planting, harvesting, eating, sleeping. For most people, history felt far away. Children went to school. Markets opened at sunrise. Boats crossed rivers without urgency. The world beyond Vietnam felt distant. The Cold War felt even further. Before the war, Vietnam was not a battlefield. It was land. It was water. It was a place shaped by rivers, rain, and seasons. Life followed nature, not politics. Morning arrived early. The sun rose slowly over wide rice fields. Mist rested gently on the water. The air was cool, but only for a short time. Farmers woke before the heat. They walked quietly into the fields, their steps slow and familiar. They had walked these paths many times before. So had their parents and their grandparents. Buffalo moved patiently through wet soil. Tools rested on shoulders. Hands touched the earth carefully. Nothing was rushed. There was no reason to hurry. The day would unfold at its own pace, as it always had. Cooking fires burned softly near homes. Smoke rose slowly into the air, mixing with morning fog. Breakfast was simple. Meals were familiar. Life followed patterns. Very old patterns. Patterns passed quietly from one generation to the next. Planting followed the rain. Harvest followed patience. Rest followed exhaustion. Evenings arrived when the light faded. People ate together. People talked quietly. People rested. Then they slept. And the next morning they did it again. History did not feel close. It felt distant. It felt like something discussed somewhere else by someone else. For most people, the future looked very much like yesterday. Children woke early. Some walked to school. Some helped their families. Some followed parents into the fields. Laughter existed, but it was gentle. Markets opened slowly as the sun climbed higher. Vegetables were arranged carefully. Fish were laid out beside baskets. Hands exchanged goods without urgency. Voices stayed low. There was conversation, but not noise. Boats crossed rivers calmly. Water touched wooden sides gently. People knew each other. Faces were familiar. The world beyond Vietnam felt far away. Global politics felt distant. The Cold War was discussed in other countries, in other languages, far from these quiet roads and rivers. Vietnam did not suddenly fall into war. It drifted toward it, slowly. For decades, Vietnam lived under French colonial rule. French buildings stood beside local homes, stone next to wood, European design beside traditional life. Colonial rule was not always loud. Often it was silent. It arrived through paperwork, through taxes, through rules written on paper. Many people never met a colonial official. They felt authority indirectly, through limits, through regulations, through decisions made elsewhere. Life adjusted as life always does. Villages continued, farms continued, routines remained. But something underneath had begun to change. After the Second World War, the world changed. Old empires weakened. New ideas spread. Vietnamese independence movements grew stronger. Not loudly, not suddenly, slowly, through discussion, through shared ideas, through quiet determination. Meetings happened behind closed doors. Letters crossed oceans, documents moved between offices. Decisions were made far away by people who would never walk these fields. Villages continued their routines. Children played. Food was cooked. Water was drawn from wells. But beneath daily life, tension slowly built, like distant thunder barely noticed at first. In 1954, Vietnam was divided. A line was drawn across the country, north and south. On paper, it was political. In real life, it was deeply personal. Families made difficult choices. Some moved north, some moved south. Many stayed exactly where they were. Some were separated, some were unsure. Most were confused. Markets still opened, rice was still planted, life continued. But uncertainty entered daily life. Quietly, the future no longer felt predictable. American involvement did not arrive all at once. It arrived slowly. First came advisors, then equipment, then more advisors. Meetings were held, reports were written, plans were discussed. By the 1960s, American soldiers arrived in larger numbers. Most were young. Many had never left home before. They arrived expecting action, expecting purpose, expecting clarity. Instead, they found waiting. Waiting became routine. Days were filled with preparation, maintenance, and boredom. The war did not feel dramatic. It felt slow. Most of the Vietnam War was not fighting. It was routine. Soldiers woke early. They cleaned equipment. They ate simple meals. Then they waited. Heat stayed constant. Rain arrived suddenly. The jungle surrounded everything, green in every direction. Days blurred together. Civilians lived beside the war. They cooked. They walked. They watched. Life continued carefully. Nature continued without interruption. Trees grew, rivers flowed, birds returned every morning. The jungle did not choose sides. It simply existed. The war did not end suddenly. It faded. Troops left gradually. Bases grew quieter. Equipment was packed away. Roads emptied. After the war, Vietnam remained. Cities rebuilt. Villages repaired. Life returned to routine. Children grew up without knowing the waiting their parents once lived through. The Vietnam War is often remembered for its noise, but most of it was quiet. It lived in waiting, in routine, in ordinary days. History is not always loud. Sometimes it is slow, and sometimes that is the most honest way to remember it. For many soldiers, each day began the same way. Morning arrived early. The air was heavy. The ground was damp. Sleep never felt complete. They woke up slowly, not because they wanted to, but because routine demanded it. Equipment was checked. Boots were tied. Weapons were cleaned again and again. Breakfast was simple, often tasteless, sometimes skipped. There was no clear sense of progress, only preparation. Hours passed with small tasks, standing, sitting, waiting. Time moved slowly. The day felt long even before it truly began. Waiting became normal. Waiting for orders, waiting for news, waiting for something to happen. Sometimes nothing happened at all. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt endless. Waiting created space for thought. Thoughts drifted home, to familiar streets, to voices remembered from far away. Letters were written carefully, words chosen slowly. Mail arrived irregularly, sometimes not at all. Waiting shaped the war more than action ever did. It defined the rhythm of daily life. Vietnam's climate was impossible to ignore. Heat stayed close, even in the shade. Clothes clung to skin. Sweat never dried. Rain arrived suddenly, without warning, without mercy. Paths turned to mud. Equipment grew heavier, movement slowed. Dry moments were rare, comfort even rarer. The environment shaped everything, not dramatically but constantly. The body adapted, the mind followed. Discomfort became familiar. Night changed the feeling of everything. Sounds became sharper. Darkness felt deeper. Sleep came lightly, often broken. Small noises carried meaning. Rustling leaves, distant movement. Fear did not shout. It whispered. Most nights passed quietly, but never peacefully. Stars appeared between clouds. Brief moments of beauty. Soldiers looked upward, thinking of other skies. Night stretched time. Morning always felt far away. Civilians lived alongside the war, not inside it, but beside it. They adjusted daily routines, changed paths, avoided attention. Cooking continued. Families gathered. Life persisted. Fear existed, but quietly. Choices were careful, movements deliberate. War became part of the background, not chosen, but endured. Ordinary life did not stop. It adapted. History books focus on events, but most of the war existed between them. In silence, moments without significance, days without headlines. Silence filled camps. Silence filled villages. Nothing happened, and then nothing happened again. These moments defined the experience. They stretched time. They shaped memory. Silence became familiar. It lingered. Over time, emotions dulled. Not from cruelty, but from repetition. Shock faded. Surprise disappeared. Routine replaced reaction. Detachment became protection. It allowed days to pass. It allowed nights to end. Feelings were postponed. Thoughts delayed. Survival required distance. Quiet, emotional distance. News from home arrived slowly, often outdated, often incomplete. Small details mattered most. Weather, family updates, ordinary life continuing elsewhere. The contrast was sharp. Life moved forward at home. Time felt frozen here. Letters were read many times, then folded carefully. Connection was fragile, but important. Eventually, things began to change. Not suddenly, not clearly. Troops left in stages. Bases reduced activity. The war did not end. It thinned. Fewer sounds, fewer movements, a slow retreat from routine. Uncertainty remained, but something was ending. Years passed. The war became memory. Stories softened, details blurred. What remained was feeling, waiting, heat, silence. Vietnam continued. So did the people who lived through it. The war did not define everything, but it left its mark, quietly. History remembers noise, but those who lived it remember the silence.